A world has been engineered around us to eliminate the ability to wait. Delayed gratification is nearly non-existent. We want everything immediately. We don't want to wait for anything. The people who can still delay gratification are operating at an enormous advantage. The things worth the most in life are the hardest to achieve for this exact reason. When you're building something or trying to achieve your goals, the hardest part sometimes isn't even the work. It's the fact that you can't visibly see the progress you're making, right? There's long feedback loops between where you started and where you're at now. You don't always see the fruits of your labor immediately. You really just have to show up, do the work, and trust the compounding effect that's taking place behind the scenes that you can't currently see. There's no confirmation that what you're doing is working. You simply have the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And the people who can push through those challenges without seeing the results of the work that they're doing are going to be able to sustain themselves much longer than people who are looking for that final product, that quick win, things of that nature. And by pushing through those challenging moments, you're building a muscle. That's a repetition. You're training your brain not to seek that instant gratification. You understand that the big picture is much farther away and it takes time, energy, and effort and a lot of hard work to achieve that. And you're not going to see the results immediately. The challenge really is psychological, right? It's in our heads and it's human nature. It's nothing you can inherently control. Dopamine is our brain's reward chemical, right? And unfortunately, our brains have no filter as to what triggers dopamine and what doesn't. Whether you finish a marathon, whether you had sex, whether you made $1 million, whether you're scrolling on Instagram and you get a bunch of likes and you see funny videos, your brain just wants that hit of dopamine. It doesn't distinguish between something meaningful and something cheap. And the challenge in this day and age, you already know where I'm going with it. Very smart people with tremendous resources have engineered a very fast, very cheap delivery system to provide us this dopamine. And our brains have a very tough time battling that system. Every swipe, every like, every notification, every funny video. When you stack hundreds of those on a daily basis, your brain expects that dopamine reward in a very short cycle. It looks for it frequently. And anything that takes longer than that feels unbearable. And it's not because you're weak in the head, it's because your brain has been trained to look for those quick wins. It's now calibrated on a different timeline. So this isn't a flaw of character on anyone's behalf who might be watching this and struggling with those challenges. It's a biological vulnerability, but the awareness of this fact is a step in the right direction because it allows you to make a change. Social media has recalibrated what the expectation of the timeline of success is for everybody. All you're seeing ultimately is a highlight reel of X, Y, or Z person's life, but what you don't see is the hard work that was put in to achieve those goals. And not to mention, a lot of that stuff could very well be fabricated. So you can't help but think that in comparison, your reality is a failure, which isn't true, by the way. So my question is, has human nature shifted as a result of this technology and these systems that have been implemented? And based on my research, I would say the answer is no. The impulse towards immediate reward has dated back centuries. It's what creates a sense of urgency. It keeps us moving. It keeps us going. So the question is more so not whether or not you're capable of waiting, which you are. Is your environment designed to maximize your ability to wait for the things you want in life? So how do you improve that muscle? How do you train that muscle, like I previously mentioned, to reward delayed gratification and be able to wait for the things that you want? You have to rewire your brain, your mindset, your response. And the first way to do that, and honestly the most important way to do that, is through self-awareness. You have to be aware that you're seeking instant gratification and these dopamine hits from social media or whatever it may be. When you're sitting at work or at home and you're bored and you go and reach for your phone or you reach in your pocket for no reason, you didn't even get a notification, take a pause. Take a breather right there and think to yourself, why did I just reach for my phone? I'll pick up my phone sometimes and I'll think to myself, what am I even looking at? What am I checking? There's nothing here for me to look at. And so being able to recognize those moments where you have a slight lapse tells yourself in your brain, like, okay, there's no reason for me to do that. Why am I doing it? Let me stop doing it. What I would also recommend people do is create longer feedback loops on purpose. Start something in your life that has no immediate payoff. whether it be playing an instrument, starting a business, going to the gym, trying to eat healthier, a creative project maybe, you start to paint, draw, something of that nature. Make it so that there's a longer road to success and be able to see it through without achieving something along the way. And to that point, find satisfaction in the process when you learn a song on the piano, whether it be like a Twinkle Twinkle Little Star type of thing, or whether you start going to the gym and you lose 5 pounds, even though you want to lose 20, right? You're making progress, right? You're finding something in the journey that is helping sort of satisfy your brain. And it might not be the ultimate goal, but you know you're moving in the right direction, and that fuels you to keep going. And ultimately, do more things that make you uncomfortable with no deliberate reward. And I'm not saying, go skydiving and stuff like that. That would be, I suppose, an example, and that probably would be a pretty big dopamine hit. But I'm talking about a cold shower, going for a long run, hitting a PR at the gym, maybe talking to a girl or a guy that you find attractive for no reason type of thing. So things that sort of push you out of your comfort zone and make you a little uncomfortable without maybe seeing something in return for that action. So the ultimate question everybody has to ask themselves is this: how long can you withstand what you're doing until you've achieved what you're after? People don't quit because they're incapable. They quit because the gap between where they started and where they want to arrive is larger than they expected. Closing that gap has nothing to do with your skill set or your talent. It's your tolerance to wait for those things that you're trying to achieve and not see the immediate results for a long stretch of time. So ultimately, everybody wants the results. But in this day and age, most people are not willing to sit in that process to achieve that result. The gap between wanting something and willing to do something is where the competitive advantage lies for the few people who are able to delay that gratification. So ask yourself at the end of the day, what's that one thing I'm working towards that I'm willing to wait for, that I'm willing to delay? And what are some habits that might not be serving me right now that I can actively make an effort to improve upon and eliminate from my life so that I can achieve my goals faster?